your car too.
Let's go with the granny flag. Is that a Supra? Who did it? Come on! Dead white!
Hello, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so may as well work on the Kawasaki. So we got some bearings to replace in the steering stem. They're pitted and divoted, and like I can feel the notchiness in it. So what we're gonna go with is the all balls bearings. See the part numbers? They are a tapered bearing, not just a ball bearing. To do so, we need to take our gauges off, the bars off, we need to drop everything, loosen the headlight, and we need to take out the main bolt here. If we can see that. Here, let me move you in just a little bit here, overview this. I'm not gonna film most of this type of stuff because it's pretty academic. We need to pull the bars off, loosen our gauges, the light, stuff like that. Then we need to take off this cap nut here, this pinch bolt here, and then of course we gotta come over to the forks and loosen here to drop the forks down. You do need to support the front of the bike with something. I've got some jack stands on a bar underneath the front of the frame, because when you take this loose, the bike is going to tip back onto the back wheel if you're on your center stand, or if you're on a paddock stand, it's going to fall forward. So make sure you support the front of the bike. Again, I'm not going to film some of this stuff. We're going to film the actual steering stem replacement. We are going to have to knock off the inner and outer races out of the frame of the bike and off the triple tree itself. And once that's done, everything should slip on. We're gonna polish it up real nice and get this baby back where it needs to be and riding good down the road. So I'm gonna knock some of this quick stuff off and we're gonna cut back to that. Want to update as this is going a little bit. I took the fork clamps off here. It's just 14mm, it's pretty easy. I did decide to take off the clutch perch and the front brake. Make sure you keep the reservoir as level and upright as possible so you don't get air in the line. I did take them off so it's a little bit easier to manipulate the bars. The two bolts on the bottom of the cluster here, they're a couple of 13mm. They're straight down here. There is a lock washer and a flat washer. Don't drop them. If you do drop them, hunt them down. You won't be able to drop your headlight the way I have because I have some aftermarket headlight tabs. The factory ones are the one-piece chrome. You'll probably just have to take the headlight off with the Allen bolts on each side and drop the headlight that way. I'm going to try to get away from that because these just kind of slip off. The cluster's ready to come off. As you can see here, it's loose and my gauge is loose. Need to put a buffer in that, or a bumper, a rubber grommet, whatever. So this is ready to come off. Just watch all your cabling, all your lines. Try to lay some of this stuff out of the way. As you can see, I put some towels over my tank. I don't want to scratch it up any worse than it already is. It might be easier to loosen some of your wire clamps, things like this. If I can do this one-handed on camera, obviously I cannot. Never works when I try to do it one-handed. That way you can have a little extra flexibility to pull your bars off, stuff like that. Might be easier to lay everything forward. Going to depend on your working situation. If you want to take all the controls off, that's fine too. A lot of people probably do that. I'm lazy. So anyway, that's where we're at. After I get everything pulled off the top of the triple tree, then we're going to start looking at the hardware here. Okay, so we got the gauges and the headlight dropped. Pulls out pretty easy. Like I said, it's those two bolts on the bottom and it just lifts out with rubber grommets. Try not to lose anything. Flip some stuff out of the way. This is probably a bad idea, but we're doing it anyway. Should be okay. Have to loosen. There's 4 of these bolts. These are, I believe these were 14mm. These were 17 on the sides, and once you do that, the forks will either drop down or you can push them down. Then we need to loosen this pinch bolt. Again, I believe that was 14. Maybe that was a 13. It was a 13, for whatever reason. This, I used an 1/16" socket and it got that off. So we're basically ready to try to remove the top of the triple. With it loose everywhere, I'm gonna kind of leave the forks, everything kind of the way it's sitting, and we're gonna try to take the rest of it off at one time. I'll probably create more work for myself, but we're just gonna play this by ear. When you remove this top nut, oh, actually that's a whole ass bolt. All right, thought that was just a nut, but that's a whole ass bolt with washers. I'm gonna put that in a little bucket, and we remove that, which of course I need 2 hands, so that's how that typically works out. That loosened up a little bit, and I'm going to very carefully spread this, just a little touch, just a little touch like that, just free them up. Okay, and now we need to remove the top triple. There we go. And looks like we're gonna have to remove that. Hold on, let's set it back on there for just a second. Can't wait to see the comments for this video, roasting me. Should have known, dipshit in gym clothes out there working on a bike. Why don't you just take all that off? This guy doesn't know what he's doing. Yet again, here you are, watching this stupid video as I try to fumble my way through this crap. So this is the one bolt that we are going to have to take all the way out. The other ones don't, but because this one has the throttle cable tender on it, we are going to take it out. And I will be putting the bolt back in the hole a few threads. There we go. One less bolt to keep up with. Let's just gently lay these up here for a moment. And there's our top of the triple. So that's not bad there. That needs painted. I'm probably going to sand and paint that before I reinstall it. Get that out the way. And now for this part. So let me put you back on the tripod here and show you what we got going on here. All right. So if we look at this nut here, this flanged, not flanged, but it's a, they make a special spanner to do that. But because I'm poor, and I come from a poor family, poor mechanics, I've learned a few things over the years. One of which is how to remove these. If some jackass didn't put it together on a Friday, put that on there so they're tight. We're just going to very carefully don't want to jig everything about here. About to lose my handlebar. Well, as usual, my unpreparedness bit me in the ass. SD card was full. So continue using the punch to bump that loose. And right about the time I got it loose, I remembered I do have a C-spanner. It's the one used to adjust the rear shocks on this dadgum thing. And it fits perfectly. And with a cheater on there, very easy to, there it is, see? And now here is where your balls are gonna fall out. Your balls are gonna fall out. Book says there's 20 in the bottom and there's 19 in the top. I'm hoping that since, I'm just gonna roll that bolt in snug on the fork, we can kind of cheat a little here. It appears our cheating might work. It's all fucking fucked, mate. The cheating didn't work. My balls would never work. Alright, so now I have to get a magnet pick these up. They have gone all over my garage floor. It was certainly not the plan. That's what I get for thinking I'm clever. They are dry too, man. Holy moly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's 6 of them. I don't know if I can put that magnet. Oop, there's one. Yeah, you can see how just dry that looks. Make sure you remember where your uppers and lowers are. See, I really need another little canister. I used to have a bunch of small little cans and stuff. Then I started feeling a little bit too much like my father, hoarding every single blasted vegetable can to use as a parts can. So anyway, let's collect all of our balls, and we will come back in a second. Okay, so what we've done so far is we dropped the full stem, and I'm going to show you how I did that. Obviously you can see, like, I tried to move stuff out of the way. All of this is heavy, don't let it hang on the wires. I've just kind of separated some stuff and laid it up over the tank so everything's sitting where it's supposed to. And when this loosened, all my balls went right on the floor. Like, all of my balls. So I had to play frickin' hunt them down mode to get all 40 of them. So I loosened up the bolts on the bottom of the clamps and I slipped it down all the way, and once this was slipped all the way down to the fender, the front end just dropped out. And then of course you can see I have it blocked up. And now we have the stem, and this is where we actually have to do some work. We have to knock this race off, this bottom race, and we don't have to do anything on the top one. It's just this one we have to knock off. And we also are going to have to do it over here. We've got to knock this race out and the mate to it on the bottom. And for that, I was hoping my punch that we used earlier would work. No, it's probably not going to be long enough. Probably have to use a longer screwdriver. But anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to probably get one of my longer screwdrivers or a punch. I do have this one that I've beat on for years that I've broken that we can do. Just make sure that you knock it out even on each side so it doesn't bind. And to get the top one out, let's just knock it up from the bottom. And this one we might have to put in the vise to knock loose. I don't know yet. We're just going to play that one by ear. So we'll come back when I get something more figured out. Two things of note. One, my aspect ratio was fucked up and I just fixed it. So hopefully I can fix it in the edit. If not, and you notice a change, that's why. I don't want to hear any shit. I'm using a 1/2 inch extension to knock these races out because I don't want to break my screwdriver, and I'm just being delicate with it. And it is coming out. It's about to fall out of my hand, actually. Ugh. God, I could use a little hand. There. There we go. That one has grease on it still. Maybe the other one will too. Don't know. Shall see. So, we're going to do that process on the top one. I will do that off camera. And we will cut back to the bench. So let me show you how I've been doing this. As you can see, I put the stem in my vise and I just took a punch and started just giving it a little bit of whiskey there, and it's coming off. I will actually go ahead and finish taking it off on camera so we don't see me nursing the situation, so I don't screw anything up here. So I am nervous about messing with this front end suspension stuff since I've never done any of it before. So now that we've got it that far off, and I did start on the back, and I felt that it was binding, which is why I had it flipped over like that to get the other end. But as you can see now, be careful that we don't mess up the shaft where the new bearing is going to sit. So this should just slide off now. Let's see if I can get this where. Yeah, there we go. Oh man, I was hoping that. There we go. Then our old dust seals are off. There we go. And I do keep all of the everythings, so I'm going to put these old seals and everything back in the parts box. So now what we have to do is actually put the new stuff in, and the lower seal, I believe, is bigger. And you've got to put the seal on first. Don't forget to do that. Yeah, so there's the seal. And the bearings are two different sizes, so make sure that you're using the right one. The bigger one goes on the bottom, okay? And this race, we're actually going to press into the stem on the bike. So the bearing here, look at that cute little fella. Look at that cute little fella. Look at him. He is going to go down here. Now, there's several ways to get that down on there. I haven't figured out which way I'm going to do yet, to be honest with you. They say to use a pipe. You can put a pipe that just barely fits over this and goes on this inner race. You do not want to push anywhere on the cage or on the bearings. You've got to push on the race. So I'm gonna try to slick this up a little bit. I might put a little bit of grease on the back of it to help it slide. And we do need to pack some grease on this before we put it in. But I don't know exactly how I'm gonna get it on there yet. I haven't figured it out. I don't know if I have a pipe that's the right size for this. I'm simply not sure. When I figure that out, I'll bring everybody back on here and we can discuss it. But if you do have a pipe or an actual bearing tool, that would work best. I don't have that. I don't think I have a pipe that can fit over this, because the cage, the bearing cage, doesn't sit totally flush with this inner race. So I simply don't know yet, to be honest. So when I figure something out, I will come back and we can discuss. What I've ended up doing was using a very small punch that I had, and I very gently, just little taps inside the race, on the inner race, not touching the cage here, and just gave her some gentle taps. And I did put some burrs into the stem itself, but the bearing does not slip over that. It's on the lower part of the stem itself. And tapped it down all the way seated until the dust shield no longer moves. And then I went around one more time and gave it just a final one of those to make sure it's seated. Everything's still going the way it's supposed to. Okay, so now that that's done, we need to remember to grease it. But the next step is actually over here on the bike itself. And I will probably lower the tripod here so you can see what we're doing. So what we have to do, this bottom one's doesn't seem to be too hard. The larger race has to just slide up in here, and it already wants to. So I'll probably be able to just use a block of wood and tap him up in there. Unless you have a bearing press where you can use washers and pull this up in here. But it already kind of goes up in there pretty evenly. So we could probably start it here. And we're already up flush with the stem, but we still have to go up further, about 1/4 of an inch or so, maybe not quite, maybe closer to 1/8 of an inch. And I'm just gonna get, well, actually, let's just see if we can do it here like this. You guys can watch my redneck shit. Oh yeah. Just like that. Talk shit all you want, that worked. Nice and flush up in there, just the way it's supposed to be. So that means we're actually ready to bring the front end back over. Put the front end back on, or at least get it placed in there. So as we've talked, get your grease of choice. And let's make sure we get a good layer on there. I'm gonna overdo mine, I guarantee it. This is not the correct way to pack a bearing, and if it was a more serious bearing, I probably would have packed it before we put it on. However, since it's just the steering stem and it's not rotating a bunch, we're just gonna see. I don't know if I can get any to pump down in behind there or not. Probably not. Let's just see if we can get as much as we can packed in there. And once we get that done, I am definitely going to be putting more in. I'm going to try to get as much as I can in there. I'm not going to sit here and finagle this while on camera and waste everybody's time. Get as much grease in there as you can. I'm already seeing some work its way out, which is good. Okay. There. Once we get done with that, we're going to slide the bottom triple back on the front end, and we will be continuing the reinstallation of the front end. And the more pain in the ass part is going to be getting all this back together. What we can actually do though, however, since we're still here, we can do this. Let's go ahead, see if I can get this a little bit better for you guys. Got so much shit in there. It's been so long since I've done any type of filming. There. This one had a little bit of ookie gookie, had a burr on it. I tried to file it just a little bit. Right there was where I had my burr. I tried to file it a little. I do not think this one's gonna slip in as well as the other one did. Maybe we'll get a little lucky, we'll see. Okay. Get our redneck bearing bumper here. Ooh, there we go already. If I can use that broken corner there. There we go. Make sure it's seated all the way. I'm probably gonna go a little overboard to make sure this is on there as much as it can. Okay. Not so bad. Let's continue forward, I guess. I'm gonna make me another leverage. Hold on. Let's slide the triple on here. This tripod's gonna be in the way, isn't it? I wanted to try to slide this on camera, but of fucking course. See there. You can kind of see how I. Did this go on the inside or the outside? I think all of that went on the inside. Lock back in front of the tire here. That back up there. There we go. And then the rest will be putting the upper bearing on. So now that you see how I'm doing that, I am going to slide the triple back down just a little bit here. I do want to put some more grease on that lower bearing. Try to not get my bald ass head in the way here. Okay. right. Now, the last one here. Let's go ahead and I'll show you how we should have done this. See, make sure I can see what we're doing here. So I can actually put some grease down in the back side of that bearing. On vacation and my frickin' phone was going off. You believe that? That's kind of what we got to do here. We got to put more, it's work. We got to put more grease along here like we did. So now that we're back and I've dealt with work, I finished packing this bearing. I did take it out and I packed it and pumped it full of grease. Don't forget our seal. I put just a little bit on it. There we go. And then we're going to put on that little fellow there and that there. Okay, now that we've done that, feels nice. So, let's go ahead and snug it a little here. Now, I don't know how tight this needs to be. I need to check the torque specs. Not that I know how I'm going to torque it with this, but need to figure out what that's supposed to look like. And we'll go from there. It does feel, it feels so smooth already. Like this actually was easier than I thought it would be. I didn't think it would go quite this simple. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Some of the key things I'd like to point out to remember: make sure you clean everything and grease everything as you're putting it together. We do want this to last for another 40 freaking years. And my dumbass is nothing compared to Japanese engineers. So we're just gonna hope that we've done this all correctly. It feels good. The last real main things we gotta do is, other than just bolting shit back on, is just torquing this, and the rest of it just kind of goes together. So let me find a torque spec for this and get this tightened down where it needs to be. And then we're going to get the upper triple set up to go back on. I really was wanting to paint it before reassembly for the sake of the video. For the sake of video, I might not. I don't know. I need to see what the weather's going to be. If the weather's not bad tomorrow, I might paint it. And I will just finish this as a part 2 for tomorrow. But it's so just ratty looking. Maybe a good cleanup will do, but I've got paint chipping and stuff on mine. I'd like to paint it up a little bit so it just doesn't look like utter shit. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Let me get some torque specs on this and tighten this steering head down. And I'll probably go ahead and, just for the sake of stabilizing the motorcycle as it's sitting here, I'll probably, you know, snug these down even though it's not where it needs to be, just so everything stays in place and nothing kind of jigs about or anything. So let me get some specs. Well, the book is not giving any torque specs, and neither is anything I have read on the dreaded internet. So what it's saying is, I'll loosen this back up a little bit. It needs to be tight, but you don't need to torque it down. It just needs to be tight enough where there's no binding. And since they're new bearings, I'm probably just going to go just a little snug. I don't want to go much. That might have been a little much. and back it off just a hair and see how it feels. Now, with the way I have my bike propped up, it's going to be kind of difficult to do this. I don't know if I can kind of cheat it a little here. Maybe. Maybe not. Try to let it turn. This is hard to do with, for me, this is hard to do because like you need to have the upper triple to stabilize everything, otherwise you're going to have a bunch of give. You know what I mean? Like, bear with me. This has got to be annoying as fuck for you guys who actually know what you're doing. Let's see if we can cheat this a little bit. Okay. That feels good. Like I'm not feeling any slack in the front end. Like it's, I think that's probably tight enough. It's not binding at all. Feels pretty smooth. I think we can probably call it there. And then the rest is just reassembling everything. So I'm going to let the fork drop back down because I'm going to be done for today. I do want to paint that. There. I'm going to let them drop back down a little bit. I just want this thing a little bit more stable overnight. I don't want some disgruntled mechanic spirit to come in here and push some shit over against my car. So we can probably call that done for part one. And this, of course, like I said, has got to come back off. We'll be dealing with that tomorrow. It should be tight enough. The book says tight, but not overly tight, because you can prematurely wear the bearing. And we don't like premature anything around here, so we're not going to touch it. We're going to call that good, and we'll come back and finish wrapping this up tomorrow after I paint those pieces. And we actually have another project that I'll be doing on the front end. This particular video is over these bearings, but I will be doing fork seals as well. So, let's take a break. I want to eat some dinner and get cleaned up and relax a little bit. We'll come back tomorrow and wrap this dude up. So here we are. Let's go ahead and put this dude back together. Got a lot of things going on with it right now. Don't need to get into, including removing the center stand, which I've already done. but let's try to throw some of this stuff back on. I've already nicked my paint job because I'm in the process of lowering my gauge cluster and I made a bracket for it. No, I'm not filming that because I don't want anybody to see how terrible I am at welding. I am in fact in clothes that are absolutely as inappropriate as you can imagine for mechanic work. It's like 11:30 or something at night, midnight right now. In the process of doing some of this, I do plan to be making some modifications to the entirety of the bike. There we go. I do need to do touch-up paint. I'm actually mounting this for y'all for the video. I'm going to be taking all this back off within a week. Do the forks, so we're just mounting this for you for the sake of the video. We're not really going to torque this, like torque it. Needs to be tight, but we don't need to go crazy. You do need to check this after it's been, you know, you run down the road a little bit and let it jig about. You need to check it. Probably take this bolt back out and recheck your steering stem bearings. At least I will be. I'm a schizophrenic with my paranoia on everything falling apart. So, I mean, the front end's basically done. I'm going to throw a lot of this back together for the sake of video. I do not intend to bolt all this back together because I'm going to have to take it right back off, and I just knocked a grommet out. We took this apart. You should be able to put this back together and not fuck up anything. I say that, and I'm struggling to get the gauges back in. For some reason, don't know why. Like, what? You get it. I've already knocked out 2 grommets. I'm going to have to fetch all around this damn garage. And your headlight goes back on, etc. Lest you forget, we've got our pinch bolts. We've got our pinch bolts here and here and right here. No, I won't be torquing them. We understand what tightness is on this type of stuff, I'm hoping. I'm assuming it's somewhere around 20 pounds, plus or minus 4 or something. They're not big bolts. You can probably do one real good, and that's probably tight enough. And then you put your bars back on. The thing that's going to be the biggest pain in the ass is running your cables again. Making sure that they run back up through the forks through here and coming around and looping out this way, especially your brakes and everything, getting their wires back. That's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass. Take your time with it. Make sure that there's no extra tension in your clutch or your throttle cables or anything like that. Make sure everything is, you know, loose enough where it needs to be. You don't want it too tight. And the last thing you need to remember to do, of course, is your speedo cable down here and your tack right there. Make sure you get those in, and you should be pretty good to go after that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're missing other than the fact that we are not put back together all the way. I'm not going to walk you through simple processes of putting shit back on that we've already taken off. Like I said, when you're running your cables, it's going to depend a lot on Have you lowered your bike? Have you changed anything? Have you put on aftermarket handlebars like I have where they're lower? And you're going to have to run your cables and such in a way that's not going to be intrusive to their mobility. You don't want to bind a cable and put it in too tight of a bend, stuff like that. That's going to be the actual pain in the ass. And getting the bars back where you want them, where they're fixed right. You don't need to over tighten the nuts on your gauge cluster. They're in rubber grommets. You get them down with a good, like one good grunt, you know, your final thrust into the old lady, and it's good enough. It's really all there is to it for this. The actual bitch of it was changing the actual bearings and removing the races on the steering stem, especially the one on the bottom, which we've done. The rest of this shit's pretty easy, so I'm not going to bore the film time or y'all with the rest of it. If you have any questions or anything, you know, of course, like, put it in the comments, and I'm sure the people who actually know what the hell they're doing, unlike me, are happy to answer, and I'll do the best I can. But other than that, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I know I don't film that much anymore, but we're slowly getting our way back into it. The next video that I'll be filming for this bike, or in general, we'll be actually doing these fork seals, which have gotten ruined in their 40-year lifespan, and they've leaked all the freaking fork oil out, and the damn thing bounces around like a 20-year-old spring mattress on homecoming night. So we're gonna have to replace them. They're already on the bench. We'll be getting to that next couple days, I think. Hopefully that won't be too bad. So anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope it helped you a little bit. We'll see you later, and keep two on the ground.
Come on, boss! Come on! Yeah!